In this video, I'm going to go over my editing process going from photo shoot to finished image using Lightroom. If you're new to the channel, my name is Scott. I'm a photographer based in Santa Cruz. I shoot throughout the Bay Area, and I specialize in fashion, fine art, and creative portraiture. If you're curious about my work, I've linked to my website below. Go ahead and check that out. This channel is about all things photography related, and I'm stoked you're here. Let's go ahead and get that admin stuff out of the way and hit that subscribe if you have. Could you not?
Could you not?
We're gonna go ahead and, yeah, hit that subscribe. We're gonna go ahead and get this SD card loaded in here and...
Go on, beat it.
So your edits, they take a little bit too long. You dread getting into it because it's a pain. And the results, let's be honest, boring. You know, like, no vibe, not having that flavor. Kind of like chips with no salsa. Yeah, you want that tapatio, that salsa that's muy salsa. Tell you what, we're gonna get you editing like a frickin' savage. You just did your shoot, right? You put your heart out there. You put it all on the line. Maybe you even cut off your ear and mailed it to your girl. Okay, maybe not the ear thing, but you get my point. You showed up. But here's the thing, and you've heard it before. You write from the heart, edit from the head. Let's get into it. Importing your images is simple. Open Lightroom and plug in your SD card. You should get a prompt to import your images, and if not, you can click on the bottom left of the Lightroom screen to import. Make sure you've got Smart Preview selected and then choose your destination folder. I'm not going to get into backing up your stuff here in this video, but please do. Just remember, 2 is 1, 1 is none. At this point, your Smart Previews have been processed, and now it's time to start culling. This is my process. It's pretty fast, it's very thorough, and effective. Make sure you learn your keyboard shortcuts. I'm going to repeat this throughout the video. With the first frame selected, hit F on your keyboard to go to full frame. G is for gallery, or gets you back to everything. I use the star rating tool to cull and sort all of my images. So if I give it 1 star, that means it caught my attention. If it eventually gets a 2nd star, that means it's been fully edited and retouched. So if the image gets my attention in some way, I hit that right bracket to give it a star, and I quickly move on. To remove the rating, you can just hit the left bracket. So if it doesn't get me, I quickly move on. I hit that right arrow, and I go through the entire set this way from start to finish. It's just quick, snap judgments based off feeling. With the first run through done, I can then review the images that I've selected by looking at the top of the menu and sorting by rating. I click that 1 star, and that's going to give me all the images that I had just selected. This is the point where, if I have time, I like to create some space between the photographer and the editor. And if I can step away and give some space before I review these selections, it works better for me. Sometimes you just don't have that luxury of time. So either way, the next round, you go back through these images and look at them with a more critical eye. And this is a hard one to do, but you'll likely have several frames that are basically the same image. Pick one. You're a freaking savage, right? Get to the point. So hit that left bracket button, which will reduce the star rating by 1 for each hit, and it'll remove it from the group. If it doesn't give you chills, it dies. I once culled 12,000 frames into just 48 in only 18 minutes. That's not editing, that's natural selection. OTSS, only the strong survive. Okay, now that we got your precious little pretties selected from the masses, it's time for surgery. Let's get my Lightroom loaded. Okay, we're locked and loaded here. From the set, we've got just the culled images that received that 1st star. What I'm going to do is make any just minor exposure adjustments to any of the photos in that group that might be slightly over or under exposed. Generally, what I'll see is a pattern, depending on if it's controlled lighting, it's a slightly different story, but if it's a change of scene, drastic change in light, maybe a change in the direction that you're pointing the lens, or you actually are just making adjustments on the camera, there may be sets or groups that you'll find that might need just a little bit of over or under exposure just to get a base adjustment. And what I'll do is grab the first image from that set, make my adjustments until I'm happy with that. And what you can do from that image is right click and go to Develop Settings and Copy Settings. That just is going to copy everything and any adjustment that has been made to that image in Lightroom. And then go to the next image in sequence that also needs that adjustment. Click on that, and then I'll click at the end of that sequence of any of those images that I also want to adjust. Holding Shift and click again will select all of those images. Right click on that, and then go back to Develop Settings, and then go to Paste Settings. And what that's going to do is apply any of the adjustments you just copied on that first image to the rest of that set. And just rinse and repeat through whatever the rest of those cold images that you have, and now you've got a good base to work with. Just remember, Lightroom is a non-damaging editor, so you're not actually making adjustments to the raw file. So feel comfortable playing around with it. Make some adjustments. If you get too lost or far down the track and you've mixed all the paints together, it's starting to turn brown or gray, hit that reset button, you can start over, right? So don't get too stressed about that. All right, so I'm working on this shoot here that I'd done with Piper. This shoot was a great shoot we did in Alameda, and I've got my images now culled down to just the shots that I like. I'm going to do some retouching first. The reason why is the presets that I use have film grain and certain modifiers on them that run a little bit heavier on my machines. And I'm using a current MacBook Pro. But even then, even with the latest and greatest, it does run a little bit slower as far as working quickly once I've got the preset applied. So what I'll do is actually do my just retouching first. So you're in the gallery mode now. I've selected an image that I know needs a little bit of retouching. I'm gonna go ahead and hit D for develop, which will get me into that image. You can hit the tool itself and it'll actually go from gallery to develop and open up that tool. The fast key for the healing brush is Q. Just remember, you don't want to use the clone tool, and we're not using the remove tool. It's the little band-aid icon here, and we'll select on that. And you can adjust the brush size, again, by using those brackets, the same ones we used for the star rating. It also modifies your brush size. Bracket to the right makes it larger, bracket to the left makes it smaller. Z will zoom me in. When I've got the tool open, I can hold down the space bar to give me the hand tool, and I can drag and move the image around to get to areas that might need a little bit of retouching. Once you've selected the area that needs to be cleaned up, it's not cloning, but it's grabbing texture and smoothing from another sampling area. You're gonna move that sampling area to something very similar to what you're trying to heal. And so it's going to try to blend those together and make whatever that blemish is go away. So what you don't want it to do is, if, for example, you're trying to heal like a scar or some kind of like damage on skin, and it starts grabbing texture, say from like concrete behind the subject, it's not going to work because it's trying to blend that texture and it's going to stand out like a sore thumb. So what you can do is either just grab the other circle that's connected to that healing application and move that over to where you'd like to sample it. What I'm trying to look for is very similar tonality and texture when I'm using my healing brush. If the healing brush or the application doesn't look right, you can click on that little band-aid, hit the delete button, and it makes it go away. Again, the space bar gives me the hand tool, and I can kind of move around the image and then quickly just retouch any little blemishes or things that I want to quickly clean up here. That's looking good. I'm just going to go through one image as an example here. All right, so I've got my retouching has been finished. Now I'm ready to actually apply one of my presets. And the presets that I use are very good presets. And check out their stuff if you haven't done so already. I'm a huge fan of these presets. It's not just because I'm a friend of Dave's, it's actually, they're incredible. And this, if you're interested in using these presets, this is not sponsored, by the way, but if you're interested in using these, it's great. You're not only supporting Dave, you're supporting his family and a couple of other families that work very hard to make this company run, and they do such an excellent job at it. I will give you a code. Just use the code Scott upon checkout for 10% or 15. I think it's 15% off anything. Again, this is not sponsored. None of this goes towards me, but you should definitely check these out. This is my secret sauce. I do a little bit of adjustment depending on which one of these presets I'm using. For this look in particular, I'm going to be using the Eastman preset. It is one of my favorites. I'll actually just name a couple of my favorites for you right now. That is the Eastman I like using the 1974 and the 1983 modifiers on both of those. The monochrome preset is incredible, and that's coming from someone that shoots with the monochrome, not exclusively, but predominantly. I've used all the monochromes. Check out that video if you haven't seen it before. I'm going to link that above. But the monochromes are incredible. And then next to the Eastman, I use Portra 400 quite a bit. It's a little bit saturated for portraits and for some of the fashion work I do. So Dave has a golden hour modifier on there, and I find that useful, although I think the golden hour actually punches, this isn't punch, it actually takes down the color and saturation a little bit more than I'd prefer. So I have some tuning that I do personally for my work that's kind of somewhere in between. The Tri-X is actually a preset that I've had for quite some time from Dave, and I don't use it for everything because I have some of my own black and white presets that I like to use. But I've come to love Tri-X on some of the shoots I've been doing recently. It's gritty, it's Tri-X-y, and it's something worth checking out, especially if you're a film shooter and you do shoot digital quite a bit. This is right in the zone. It's amazing. So all right, back to this shot. I'm gonna go to Eastman, make that adjustment. I like this vibe. I'm not going to, the 1983 adds a bit more kind of blues. It punches the blues a bit, and it's not exactly what I want for this look. And the 1974 modifier is definitely warming and kind of knocks down some of the vibrance and saturation. I just like the Eastman as it is right here. In fact, I'm going to give it a color punch, and that's just about it. That's all I need. I'm going to up my exposure just a little bit more here. Any of these modifiers here, you can drag the knob back and forth to do that, but it's pretty rough, right? The smoothing isn't very good. If I want more of a fine-tune adjustment, I'll just mouse over the value on the right-hand side, and then with my right hand on the arrow button, I can go up and down just to make some more subtle adjustments to exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, etc. All right, one final touch that I'll do, and this is kind of it's all a matter of taste for everyone. But I'm going to mention the last thing I'll do to finish an image like this. I didn't mention cropping because that's a whole nother conversation. The last thing I'm going to finally do on something like this is particularly for like a model or a fashion shoot is I will do a little bit of retouching or final retouching for the face. And I'm going to use at the bottom of Lightroom or towards the bottom, there is the adaptive options or presets, and you can select under portrait. They have quite a few different options. I don't use actually any of them except for the enhanced portrait. So I'll go ahead and select that, and that's going to apply several masks if possible. It's going to look for teeth, eyes and pupil, the whites of your eyes, and the facial skin around the face, and that's it. However, the adjustments are extremely strong in Lightroom. So I'll go ahead and hit the enhanced portrait, and then what I'm going to do is drag the amount down. So just above, on the left side of the screen, there's that modifier, and I'm going to bring that down generally to about 5 to 10%. That's about all I'm using for every single modifier in there, with the exception of the facial skin. If the subject has some blemishes or you'd like to clean that up just a little bit more, at that point I'll bring just by selecting the mask or the masking on the right hand side of your screen, I'll select masking. I'll bring up just the facial skin, and on that individual mask, not the entire set with the eyes, I'm just going to bring up my masking maybe a little bit more, somewhere between 30 to 60%, depending on how tight I am to the model, how much texture there is on the presets and the modifiers that I have for this particular image, just to kind of smooth that out just a little bit. I'll give you one last little secret sauce that I do. I want to make sure that we have the value on the face and the front or top area of the subject. I'd like to bring that up just a little bit. Not so much that you notice it when you look in an edit. You know, if you're looking, further back at an image, just a broad shot of the image, and you can sometimes notice on some people's editing, just burning and dodging, you'll see a noticeable gradient or change because they've either burned or dodged or used a mask and brought up or brought down that value. Your eye is always going to be drawn towards the highlights and the whites in your image, right? And the darks are going to create that space for your eyes to snap to the lighter areas. So what I'm doing in making a final little mask adjustment just to bring up the value of the face is I just want to make sure it brings your eyes to that, assuming that's the point of focus or what you want to draw the viewer's attention towards. And so I'm just going to take a look generally at the values of the rest of the subject and the lighting for that scene. And I don't want to go over the top, but I might make a slight adjustment depending on the shot, somewhere between 1/10 to maybe a half of a stop would be pretty strong. I wouldn't usually go that far, but maybe 1/3 of a stop, I'll bring that up just so that the values are on the face are up and it just balances out the image a little bit more without the viewer actually noticing it unless I had said something or showed the before and after. So it's generally very subtle when I do that. Okay, so just to recap where we're at, we've done all the retouching that's necessary throughout the entire set. And now I've started to play with my presets and finding a look that I like for the image that I had planned on doing or for the entire set. I'll make that adjustment to one of those images, and then again, I'm going to right click and copy those settings under develop settings, and then I'm going to select the rest of those images that are still intended to have that same look. And I'll right click on that group, go to develop settings, and then paste settings. And at that point, you have that option because now the image you're copying likely has some masking and some other adjustments. You want to make sure you're selecting those adjustments, with the exception for me of cropping, because I may be cropping each image individually, so I don't want to apply a crop to that. I'm just going to apply the color grading and the masking that I've just done. And with the adaptive masking, when it's looking for that, the enhanced portrait adaptive masking, it's going to identify and do that for each individual one. It's not just putting the same mask at the same location for every single image. It's actually seeking out faces for you. All right, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Until next time, stay curious, keep clicking.